Welcome back to our channel, devoted General Hospital fans. I have to admit, I am practically buzzing with anticipation and a heavy dose of dread as we look toward the events unfolding in Port Charles, especially regarding the terrifying hints surrounding Kai Taylor. When you watch a show for so long, you start to feel a genuine connection to these people, and right now, my heart is just pounding for what is about to happen. The spoilers for the upcoming week have left me entirely on edge, and I simply cannot stop thinking about the dark clouds gathering over Trina Robinson and the people she cares about. We all know that in this town, secrets never stay buried, and threats have a funny way of turning into tragic realities. It feels like we are standing on the precipice of a massive emotional earthquake, and the aftershocks are going to tear through the lives of some of our most beloved characters. I find myself pacing the floor, just trying to piece together how this impending disaster will reshape the landscape of the families we have grown to love and sometimes love to hate. To really understand the gravity of this situation, we have to look back at the shocking events of the August 13th episode, which honestly left me gasping at my television screen. Watching Michael Corinthos stoop to the level of blackmailing his own wife, Willow, was a profoundly unsettling experience. He did not just make a vague threat, he used actual signed affidavits from Kai and Trina to back Willow into a corner. Seeing Michael use such cold, calculated tactics against the woman he is supposed to love and protect just shattered my heart. It completely changed the dynamic of their escalating war. Michael has always had that ruthless Corinthos streak running through his veins, but seeing it directed so mercilessly at Willow felt like crossing a line from which they might never return. I sat there feeling a mix of anger and profound sadness, because you can just see the foundation of their family crumbling into dust right before our eyes. And then there is Willow. Oh, my heart just aches for her, even when she makes terrible choices. When Michael threw those names in her face, specifically naming Trina and Kai as the ones helping him, you could practically see the betrayal wash over her. Willow now knows that these two individuals, people she interacts with and who are part of her broader community, have actively participated in Michael's scheme to destroy her leverage. If I were in her shoes, feeling that level of betrayal from my husband and realizing that outsiders were helping him twist the knife, I would be absolutely consumed by a blinding fury. Willow is a mother fighting for her survival in a marriage that has turned into a war zone, and right now, she feels like a caged animal. She is terrified, she is furious, and she is incredibly vulnerable to making rash decisions out of sheer desperation. Because Willow is running so hot with anger, it is almost a guarantee that she is going to lash out, and that is exactly what terrifies me. We have all been in situations where we are so angry that we say things we do not mean, but in Port Charles, angry words can easily become the rope that hangs you. I can vividly picture Willow tracking down Kai and Trina, her eyes blazing with that intense, fiery rage, and delivering some incredibly harsh warnings. She is not going to want Kai working anywhere near her or her family ever again, and she will likely make sure he and Trina know exactly what happens when you cross her. The problem is, if Willow starts throwing around fierce threats and swearing that they will pay for what they have done, she is unknowingly digging her own grave. She is setting herself up to look like a woman unhinged, a woman capable of anything, which is the absolute worst position to be in when a real tragedy is about to strike. This brings me to the most sickening part of this entire storyline, which is the very real, very present danger looming over Kai Taylor. All the signs and whispers point to the heartbreaking possibility that Kai is not going to survive this week. I feel a knot in my stomach just thinking about it because Kai is caught in a web that he does not even fully understand. While Willow is loudly directing her anger at him, there is a much more sinister, silent threat lurking in the shadows. We know, even if the characters do not, that Trina has a stalker, a faceless, obsessive predator who is watching her every single move. This unseen terror is the real monster in this story, and it is clear that this stalker wants to completely isolate Trina from anyone who might bring her happiness or offer her protection. When you think about the psychology of a stalker, it is chillingly simple and utterly ruthless. They view anyone close to their target as an obstacle that must be permanently removed. Kai, by simply being a supportive presence in Trina's life, has unwittingly painted a massive target on his own back. The stalker does not care about Michael's blackmail or Willow's marital drama. The stalker only cares about clearing the path to Trina. I get goosebumps imagining this predator watching from the darkness, calculating the perfect moment to strike while everyone else is distracted by the Corinthos family feud. It is a classic, terrifying misdirection. The stalker is going to use the chaos created by Michael and Willow as the perfect smokescreen to commit a horrific act of violence, and poor Kai is going to pay the ultimate price just for being in the wrong place at the wrong time. If the worst truly happens and Kai is murdered, I cannot even begin to fathom the sheer horror of Trina being the one to discover his body. Just picture that scene. It would be absolutely gut-wrenching. Trina walking into a room or an alleyway, calling out his name, only to find him lifeless after a brutal attack. The sheer trauma of that moment would shatter anyone, and as a viewer, I know I will be watching through tears if it comes to pass. It is the kind of tragedy that leaves a permanent scar on a young woman's soul, a moment of pure, unadulterated nightmare that changes a person forever. I feel so deeply for Trina. She is such a bright, beautiful light in this town, and it seems like the universe is just determined to snuff out her happiness at every turn. Honestly, I have to ask myself, how much more can Trina Robinson possibly take? My heart breaks for this sweet girl every single time I think about what she has endured. She is already carrying this massive, heavy burden of grief because of Curtis Ashford being locked away in prison. Losing Curtis to the system was devastating enough, stripping away her sense of security and family. Now, the writer seemed poised to twist the knife even deeper by violently ripping another boyfriend away from her. It feels almost cruel to heap this much pain onto one young woman's shoulders. As someone who has watched her grow and root for her happiness, it is incredibly difficult to watch her being dragged back into the depths of despair. She deserves a love story, not another funeral, and the unfairness of it all just makes me want to reach through the screen and give her the biggest hug. In the immediate aftermath of such a horrific discovery, grief always searches for a place to land, and it usually lands on anger. If Kai is killed, Trina's sorrow is going to transform into a desperate need for justice. And who is the most obvious target? Willow. Trina will vividly remember every single harsh word, every scream, and every threat that Willow hurled at them. In Trina's traumatized mind, the math will be simple. Willow was furious, Willow threatened them, and now Kai is dead. It is entirely understandable why Trina would point a trembling finger straight at Willow, accusing her of being a cold-blooded murderer. I can already envision the explosive, tear-soaked confrontation between these two women. Trina, fueled by heartbreak, screaming accusations, while Willow stares back in absolute, horrified shock, realizing how perfectly she has been framed by her own temper. And what about Michael? This is where the psychological drama gets incredibly thick and fascinating. When Michael hears that Kai is dead, his first reaction is going to be pure, suffocating panic. He is going to look back at his decision to blackmail Willow with those affidavits on August 13th, and the guilt is going to hit him like a freight train. From Michael's perspective, he pushed his wife too far. He will likely believe that his ruthless actions drove Willow to the brink of insanity, causing her to completely lose control and eliminate the source of her problem. Imagine the sheer horror of a husband looking at the mother of his children and genuinely believing she committed murder because of something he initiated. The tragedy of their broken trust will reach its absolute peak, creating a chasm between them that no amount of therapy could ever repair. This mutual suspicion could easily lead to an unlikely and dangerous alliance between Michael and Trina. Both of them, driven by their own separate motivations, Trina by grief and Michael by a terrifying sense of responsibility, might become convinced that they have to expose Willow. They might feel a moral obligation to go to the police and tell them everything they know about Willow's threats and the blackmail. It is a heartbreaking scenario, watching a husband actively work to build a case against his own wife. But in Michael's mind, if Willow is truly a danger to society, he has to protect his family, even if it means sending the woman he once loved to prison. The dramatic tension of Michael and Trina secretly compiling evidence against Willow is going to be absolutely riveting television, even as it breaks my heart to watch it unfold. However, we, the audience, know the agonizing truth. Willow is innocent of this particular crime. The real killer, Trina's stalker, is incredibly intelligent and terrifyingly calculating. If this stalker wants to keep the police off their trail and remain free to obsess over Trina, framing Willow is the most brilliant, evil move they could make. The stalker has likely been watching the tensions rise, listening to the arguments, and waiting for the perfect opportunity. It would be so easy for this unseen predator to plant evidence, perhaps something belonging to Willow left at the crime scene, or a weapon tied to the Corinthos family. The stalker will use Willow's public rage as the perfect canvas to paint her as the villain, expertly manipulating the police, Trina, and Michael into doing their dirty work for them. It is a masterclass in psychological warfare, and it leaves me feeling so incredibly anxious for Willow's fate. The supreme irony of this entire situation is just too rich to ignore, and it is exactly the kind of storytelling that makes soap operas so compelling. Let us not forget, Willow actually did shoot Drew Kane. She committed a very real, very violent crime and somehow managed to sweep it under the rug and escape the consequences. Now, in a twist of pure, unadulterated karma, she is facing the very real possibility of being arrested, charged, and perhaps even convicted for a murder she had absolutely nothing to do with. It is as if the universe is demanding payment for her past sins, just in the wrong currency. Watching Willow desperately try to proclaim her innocence, knowing full well she has a dark, hidden past of her own, adds such a fascinating layer of complexity to her character. You almost want to feel sorry for her, but then you remember what she got away with, leaving you torn between sympathy and a sense of cosmic justice.